This is New Year. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket Studios in the heart of Lincoln, America, bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bakovic.
Glad to be back with you here on a Sunday night to talk some WWE wrestling here on 93.7 The Ticket. I am Jake Bakovic. This is our weekend review show. So we are going to go over WWE Raw and WWE SmackDown from this last event. And as you can tell, a couple of technical difficulties out of the way already. And that is because we did not pre-tape like WWE did this week. So we're working on the fly here. There might be a problem or two, but that's what happens with live programming. No, we're fine now. I'm Jake Bachman alongside Augie Pena. Augie, how did you enjoy your week of wrestling? More importantly, obviously, Christmas around the corner. How are you feeling this year?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I finished most of the Christmas shopping today.
Nice.
So I always keep it close there. Wrestling, it's not as eventful as it's been, but it's still something fun to watch on the TV, and we got to get used to now having 6 hours of wrestling since SmackDown is now officially going to be 3 hours. So that's going to be fun to do there. But yeah, it's been fun. And all that stuff. Just if the Eagles could have pulled one out today, that would have been the best thing to do. But can't have it all.
I'll say I think you still won 10 out of 11 for the Eagles there.
Yeah,
so
we would have clinched the division today though with that win, and is painful.
Well, at least your team didn't get knocked out of the playoff contention by the Panthers today, like my Cardinals did. So, but I'm used to that. That's kind of life as a Cardinals fan. But let's get into some wrestling here. We'll start off with Raw and then jump back to SmackDown. We'll just go through the chronological order this week. Sometimes we'll go into SmackDown because it's the most latest if it was an especially eventful SmackDown. This one, again, was a little bit pre-taped. Good for the wrestlers to get some time off. And still, WWE does a great job just to keep programming going, so give us something to talk about. So I thought you could kind of tell by the end of SmackDown. It just didn't seem like the crowd was as into it. They'd probably been sitting there for like 4 hours at that point. But it was also kind of funny because they did like on last week of SmackDown, and then they show the crowd reaction. And then they go like, all right, now this week is SmackDown. You see the same crowd, certain people, the crowd that you could pick out, the same sign. Like I can't remember the sign was saying, somebody needed to be on a video game or whatever, and it was just like Jacob Fatu needed to be on a video game. It's just like, this all looks very very familiar. So not much they could do there, though. I thought they did the best with what they had. Let's start with the WWE Raw, though. Now it seems as though we've kind of gotten our idea. We were wondering what is WWE building up toward, because Royal Rumbles is far away, but they didn't necessarily have. I mean, they got a Saturday night main event a few days before that. But you're kind of wondering, okay, what is their next premium live event? What is the next big deal? And now we figured it out. They're going to basically go all out for this January 6th Raw on Netflix with a lot of really good matchups.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically a premium live event. And so we will look forward to that. Speaking of which, they set up maybe the main event of Raw on Netflix with CM Punk calling out Seth Rollins to open up WWE Raw. Rollins obliged. He came out after Punk took a few shots. They had some nice back and forth. Seth Rollins even at one time saying that he was called a fan out there. He said that this fan has had more WrestleMania main events than you ever will. But we'll see. I think CM Punk might have one in the future. We'll have to wait and see. Of course, they do 2 main events now, night 1 and night 2. So I don't know if that counts. But in any case, as would be expected, this resulted in a brawl that went out into the seats all over the arena. They had to be separated. And then a little bit later in the show, backstage, Raw General Manager Adam Pearce told Kathy Kelly, who was the interviewer, that Punk and Rollins will headline the Raw debut on Netflix. It's interesting. This feud is 10 years in the making. I mean, it's been, when CM Punk left the company, Seth Rollins was kind of the flag bearer for the company. And so whenever CM Punk would say something, Seth Rollins would say something back. So it's kind of got some real life heat to it. And it was maybe reportedly was supposed to be at last year's WrestleMania before CM Punk got hurt at Royal Rumble. So there's just been a lot of buildup to it. all that being said, it feels like it's kind of being heated up, thrown in a microwave here with a couple weeks before Raw on Netflix. Do you like how it's going? I mean, it doesn't. I feel like they don't need a whole lot more since there's already outside animosity within the feud that they don't need to dress it up a whole lot.
Yeah, no, they really don't. But I mean, what they gave us, it just feels real between these two, because as you said, there's real life heat. They don't probably still don't like each other all that much right now. So it's fine. It's good. We're starting to see this a little bit too much. I think, it's kind of one of those things, the brawls, it seems like every episode somebody's brawling. They're, getting in between them, all that stuff. So that's kind of a little repetitive in there. But I mean, I'm excited for this, and I'm really intrigued because this feels like, as you said, this should be like a WrestleMania match, right? Like that's when they should finally meet, and they're really just pulling everything for this Raw 6, edition of Netflix on there, which I do kind of enjoy, but it just feels like that's, I don't know, it's too soon almost. On there with the stakes and that there, but it's fine. We'll see them. I thought, these are two of the best talkers in the business. And of course, Seth always calling him Phil, that seems to really, just really get to CM Punk there. And I'm curious because if they're going to have it on, Raw on Netflix on January 6th, it does make you think maybe this isn't going to be their WrestleMania opponents, because there's a lot of other storylines, Drew McIntyre's out there. Paul Heyman owes him that favor, there could be a title, somewhere on that. So it just makes you think, they've got a lot kind of working there. But I thought this was fine. And we've got 2 weeks pretty much, until this match is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting. Kind of the story throughout the feud. If you are just catching up, is that CM Punk doesn't think about Seth Rollins too much. He's focused on WrestleMania. He's focused on main eventing WrestleMania, and Seth Rollins thinks nonstop about CM Punk and just wants to end his spot. It feels like he's just kind of getting thrown to the top of the card when Seth Rollins has stuck around and fought for 10 years, which makes it interesting to wonder where they're going to go with this, because there's so much money in CM Punk. At least you would think there still is a lot of money to be printed with CM Punk if injuries don't get in the way to kind of push him up in the company. But at the same time, as WWE, do they want to reward their guy that has been stood there and will probably be here, if we're going to guess, longer than CM Punk moving forward? Of course, one feud doesn't necessarily mean disaster for either of them if they lose it. But I'm interested to see kind of how they play this out. And I'll be honest, I don't expect it to end on January 6th at Raw, which is, by the way, I still can't get over. Every time I heard January 6th, I think of storming the Capitol and all that, but they just get that's the date it falls on. So they've been saying it quite a bit, and that's kind of where we're going with it. But nevertheless, I am interested. I think that you could see this play out and go further. I mean, heck, CM Punk's last feud lasted probably like 8 months. So this definitely could last toward WrestleMania. Would you be interested in that long of a feud between these two?
I mean, it's kind of being forced on us with other feuds too, so we're kind of getting used to it. I wouldn't mind this. I can actually see this being a multi WrestleMania feud. So, this year, next year, just because of how it's been built. And then one of the big things is CM Punk has never headlined a WrestleMania, and Seth Rollins said that, he said, I've done it twice and you've never done that. So, this year it could just be on the card, and then maybe next year, it's kind of the bigger feud and it's brought up. But I mean, with the real life heat between these two guys, I don't think it'd be a bad thing, because it'd only be 3 months essentially of their feud. I'd say for what we've been, seeing the last couple years here, that's pretty short for a feud if, the 3 months there. So I think they have enough, to keep it going there and to keep it, intriguing for us as fans.
Well, yeah, and that too, and I just love this season is because it would run through Royal Rumble, then you get to Elimination Chamber, so there's a lot of creative things that you can do there. I mean, those are set in the WWE calendar because there is a lot of leeway that you can do and get some heat going on feuds. So I can't wait to see what they do there. We'll move on here. Backstage, Judgment Day tension continued. Finn Balor, of course, coming off losing the Saturday night main event, was kind of getting poked fun at in the back by his fellow Judgment Day crew. Interesting. I know a lot of people are expecting maybe Judgment Day to blow up. We'll get to by the end. They had Finn Balor had to turn around and start to focus on the main event that night because they had a World Tag Team Championship between them and the War Raiders showing up. So that story would kind of continue. We could wait to talk to a little bit more about them until we get to that. But that's kind of interesting. People have been following that to see if Judgment Day is going to break up soon. Then next on Raw, we had the Intercontinental Championship between Braun Breaker and Ludwig Kaiser. The story of this match was Breaker injuring his shoulder. I believe it was on the move where he went on the table with Ludwig Kaiser, and he's kind of been doing that move where he's jumping from ringside into the table, and so they sold that throughout the match. Braun Breaker did a great job of selling it. Kind of gave you a thought that maybe Ludwig Kaiser could capitalize on it. Ultimately, Breaker wins the match. My man Ludwig Kaiser goes down, but again, I think another showing of a good match between the two. And I don't know if Kaiser is ever going to beat Breaker for the title. But when they want to push him, he certainly seems ready.
Yeah, no, he's put on a great showing. I think every time he's wrestled, ever since he's kind of broke away from Gunther, that's really helped him. And I thought this was a pretty solid match. I'm never for the fake injuries like this. Sometimes they could overplay it, and I feel like it kind of got overplayed here just a bit. But I think these two have great chemistry on here. If they decide to maybe do it again, in the future, I think that'd be totally fine. But we know, I think we know where Ludwig's next feud is. I believe it's going to be Sheamus.
I was surprised Sheamus didn't pop out.
Yeah, didn't come up on this one here. But I like that there was an interference because it allowed the two of them to really go through it, kind of showcase everything there. And you're right. I mean, Ludwig has it. He has the voice. He has the look, the ability in there with that. And I'll say this. I don't know. We've talked a little bit about it, but with Braun Breaker, I just feel like I'm still just a little disappointed in his title reign. This was a great match on it here, but it just feels like it's repetitive. And I don't know. It's just not as exciting as I guess I was hoping it would be. When he first won the Intercontinental Championship and they started to push him here.
Well, it is interesting, and I've said it before. Some characters just are more interesting chasing the title than they are having the title. And Braun's just kind of, it felt like he kind of dropped it up pretty quickly. I mean, he had kind of had that feud with Sammy where they kind of went back and forth with it. But yeah, I feel like they need to find a pretty good opponent for him, or like stakes beyond just the Intercontinental Championship, to find something to heat up his title reign a little bit. Again, he's always going to put on good matches. They could throw Ludwig Kaiser and Sheamus at him as much as they want. I thought it's been a good kind of a fighting man's championship so far. But yeah, I feel like there needs to be a little more drama at some point. Boiled in for that thing to step up a little bit. Speaking of drama backstage, Rey Mysterio told the New Day that no one wants them in the locker room after the way they treated Big E the previous week, and told them to find somewhere else to change. Interesting. We'll see the New Day. They kind of didn't really get too far into it on this episode of Raw. But I thought that was effective way to show kind of locker room leaders. Just not happy with how they treated Big E, and so they're going to probably try to exact their revenge on the locker room, starting with Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, and I'm totally fine with that. I really like this segment. It reminds me, I don't know if you've heard of the story of The Miz and The Undertaker, where The Miz was kicked out of the locker room, and it was The Undertaker that brought him back in eventually there. So, and that kind of brought The Miz up, a little bit. So, hey, you do that with the New Day, who already established, probably one of the greatest tag team champions, against Rey Mysterio. And like you said, if they can really hit this off right, this could be a great story for them. On there, and I'm very curious to see them as the heels here for the next couple months, probably.
Yeah, and there's no better way than have Rey Mysterio be the one that gets beat up. I mean, Rey Mysterio, they've tried before. I mean, it's been back to his WCW days where he was a heel, but he's such the underdog champion that the crowd's always going to cheer him. They're always going to love him. And so if you want heat on somebody, we've saw obviously with Dirty Dom to the ultimate extent. It's good to have him go after Rey. So I don't expect Rey to come out of the top of this feud. If they do start, I think that this is a perfect step for the New Day, who does have a little bit of nuclear heat. Remember their last episodic appearance, they were kind of trying to give a promo, and the crowd was booing them, as much as they could, that they just gave up and left the ring. So far it's been good. There hasn't been a whole lot of action, but they're kind of setting up pretty well the New Day with their heel turn. And then we go back to the women's world champion Liv Morgan coming out with Dominic Mysterio and Raquel Rodriguez. They had a promo that was kind of entertaining. Morgan had a bullhorn to taunt the crowd.
Yeah.
I think she's kind of having fun with her obviously heel championship run that she's had so far. Didn't take long for Rhea Ripley to hit the ring. Call Dominic Mysterio a chicken nugget slut and say that she's the number one contender for the title with Liv Morgan, as was expected, as we saw at the end of Saturday night's main event. But just to make it official, Liv Morgan is back at it with Rhea Ripley. It's one of the feuds of the year that they just keep going back to, and I suppose I don't mind it. I'm interested again to see them go at it. Is the chicken nugget slut shot enough to get you back into it?
I mean, that was hilarious, and unfortunately for Dom, that's gonna stick. I've seen that. That's gonna stick. But man, I understand it. Big money. Rhea is essentially the John Cena right now, just without a title. And then, Liv is that heel. I'm not as excited for this because if Rhea wins, this is going to WrestleMania, because now it'll be Liv is chasing it, which might be good, because we've talked about it. Liv is kind of that coward champion right now. So maybe if they take the title off of her and allow her to kind of come back and chase, she'll get some of that, that energy, behind her. Cause right now it's just, other than the Io Sky match, she's just been the coward champion, just hasn't been doing anything on there. And, we'll see it. I don't think anybody was surprised to know that it was going to be Rhea was, the number one champion contender there. So yeah, we'll see it. I'm excited for just January 6th. I just feel like every match that they've announced so far, I think is just top notch, and we'll just see where they go on here.
Yeah, it's interesting to see if they're going to prolong this, because it seems like they've just been doing it for so long. Maybe it does go to WrestleMania, but at the same time, it would be nice to just at some point put a cap on this, and maybe Charlotte Flair can always return, and there you have what you need. But I mean that's part of the problem, though, is just kind of trying to figure out who else would compete with these two women. Nobody seems to be at their level on the Raw roster right now. Again, there's always the returns of a Becky Lynch who they'd have to find again, or somebody that they could bring back from the past. But no matter who they kind of set up for that next feud, it would be hard to believe that there's more heat or hatred between them than what you've got going on with Liv and Rhea right now.
Yeah, that is true. That makes a lot of sense. Because I mean, like you said, other than Charlotte and Becky, you really don't have anything. Even if you bring anyone over from the SmackDown side, I mean, the only one I'd possibly be interested in is maybe Tiffany. Cashing in essentially on her. But yeah, other than that, I mean, she went through Io Sky. She's been through Rhea a couple times, which is the only thing they have there. I guess that is true. So we'll have to see where they go with that on all that stuff. But I will say this: they do put on good matches. I always have to admit they put on good matches, and Dom's going to be an entertaining part of it. Rhea, I'm not as, or Raquel, I'm not as sold. I feel like she's supposed to be the Diesel of the group.
Yeah.
She's not really doing anything, because Liv still gets attacked, Liv still gets hurt, all that stuff, and things like that. So they got to clean that up. But yeah, I guess we'll have to just see what they do there. But like I said, I want Rhea to win. But knowing that just means it's gonna be extended for another 3 to 4 months.
Do you think they should have prolonged the mask to Rhea? I thought that was something that was kind of, not the ultimate like goat mask she had, but just a cover, to kind of keep that story up. I thought that would have been at least a new kind of fresh spin on it. They did it for real quick. Again, to the point that they had Rhea wearing a protective like goat looking mask in their premium live event. But I felt like that would kind of remind you, you're at this stage of the feud instead of we're just rehashing.
Yeah, I think so. But what I was really hoping Liv was going to come out with a mask, and then they could have kind of flipped it there and been like, oh, you're. And then Rhea could have been like, now you're really copying me, took my man and then took my mask. I thought that was going to be a clever spin on it, but, they didn't do anything with that part. But yeah, they went away from that really cool because, they went the Batman, kind of the clear, and then that goat one. And then it just kind of went away from there on that. So I agree. I wish they would have stuck with that. I think it just would have added more to it. essentially. But now you're just back to she's mad at everybody, and here we go.
Yeah.
Round 6, I think, is something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're almost at
probably around
Andrade and Carmelo Hayes level here.
Yeah, probably there. You mentioned earlier that Raquel Rodriguez just doesn't seem to be billed as well, or being built right now as well. And we saw that in the next match. They had the Women's Intercontinental Championship Tournament triple threat match. Raquel Rodriguez had to be the favorite going into that against Zoe Stark and Kaden Carter, who really don't have a whole lot going for them as far as characters go. But Stark ends up winning out of nowhere. She eliminates Rodriguez and then hits her G360 for the upset win, which will ultimately pin Stark against Dakota Kai in the semifinals for that Women's Intercontinental Championship tournament. And I guess long-term storytelling, that's fine. Stark and was part of the group that took out Dakota Kai, for an extended period of time. So they've kind of got between those two factions a little bit of a battle going. But I couldn't help but get over what you said earlier, which is at some point you got to make Raquel Rodriguez look like a threat. And if it's not against Zoe Stark and Kaden Carter, man,
it's bad. I mean, like you said, this tournament was essentially set up for Raquel to show, and I got to say this was a bad match. If you watched it, there were so many botches. Zoe's botch, she botched her finisher.
Yeah.
And everybody saw that. She has a really cool finisher, I think. That 360 G or whatever she calls it. G360.
Yeah.
But she missed it completely. And there were a couple other times where Zoe botched and Raquel, so that kind of irked me a little bit. I know they're human, they get one try at it, but man, all three of them were just bad. And people were like, hey, maybe the person that botched the most in the match shouldn't win. And that was Zoe Stark on there with that. But yeah, no, I agree. It's just I don't no Judgment Day member outside of essentially Liv Morgan is winning matches. Finn losing every match. JD losing every match. We haven't even seen Carlito in a match in months.
Yeah.
And Raquel
certainly not winning when he has been.
Yeah, and Raquel, has been part of losing. She was in that premium live event, other things than that. She's just losing. So it's essentially, what are you doing with this group? You wanted them to be the dominant faction, and yeah, they're essentially teasing a breakup, but nobody outside of Liv, who's the champion, is winning, and she's losing. She's taking pins.
Yeah, champion.
On there. So yeah, it's head scratching. I thought they had a great way, but like you said, I think they're just going for the Zoe Stark, Dakota Kai. So it'll be the Clear Fusion, whatever their name is, Pure Fusion Collection versus Damage Control. Essentially on there, which we saw a little bit later. They're just going with that feud. But yeah, Raquel, it's so disappointing when I saw, because when the match started, I was like, oh, she's winning this. She didn't. I'm like, oh, that's not good.
It's not. And as you mentioned, we might as well get to it now. Pure Fusion Collective was seen in the backstage assaulting Kairi Sane, slamming her hand in an anvil case. So kind of resetting the Pure Fusion Collective feud with Damage Control, which has been a 50-50 feud to begin with. We never necessarily latched onto it too much. Maybe they can kind of get something going here again. But again, it's an uphill battle, just the way that they've presented Pure Fusion Collective as not overwhelmingly talented or threatening. And so we'll see. I don't know, taking Kairi Sane out and bringing Dakota Kai back in, a little bit of a fresh look for Damage Control, but I don't know. I mean, they're gonna have to do something a little bit more than this. They already did this, and nobody was interested in the feud.
Well, for me, I don't really want this because I wanted Dakota Kai to win the Intercontinental Championship. She's one. She's one of the people I wanted to, because fresh. I know she's a little bit older, but somebody who's kind of over with the crowd, and things like that. I thought she'd be good, but this kind of worries me that next week, there's going to be a lot. Well, one of them's got to win, and I'm hoping it's Dakota Kai, because I don't think Zoe Stark deserves to go into that final.
No.
On there, but then of course, in that final, what might happen, and that kind of worries me there. So yeah, I'm not as interested in this as some other people. I can't even get their name right, so that just shows you what my interest level in this group is.
Yeah, so we'll got to see what they do there, but it's certainly a surprise for the night that Zoe Stark got the win. We also saw backstage Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn getting into a bit of a brawl after she was trying to talk to, that was Jackie Redmond was trying to talk to Seth Rollins. So Drew McIntyre of course, is just kind of going after everybody of the bloodline or the former bloodline. Again, I feel like that if you just do too much, like you said it earlier, if you do too many brawls, I mean, it's always confusing to begin with because you're having WWE people try to separate them. It's a company that runs a wrestling organization. They for week after week, they're just never prepared for these brawls.
Nope.
But I think it is less effective by having so many brawls throughout a show that when, it's supposed to be that you build up to a brawl and they're going in the crowd and it seems like the company doesn't have it in hands and okay, this is kind of serious. But if you do it 2 or 3 times a night, then it's just kind of like, okay, that's just part of the show.
Yeah, and this was comedy because Drew McIntyre was going to attack Seth Rollins in the back, and then out of nowhere you see Sami Zayn just come from the side and take him out. So that I'm sorry, that's why I was laughing when you mentioned that. But yeah, I mean, the last real effective like brawl like that to me was like the Brock Lesnar with Goldberg. I think like 4 or 5 years ago, whenever they did theirs, because that seemed legitimate. Now it's like every week, it was Cody and Kevin last week. It's these guys. It was CM Punk, Seth Rollins. They just kind of live in Rhea every single time. And like you said, I mean, it kind of takes the realism of it away because the point is they're trying to hurt each other, right? They're trying to fight. The company doesn't let them fight outside of a match. So it's whatever on here. But I just thought this segment was kind of a lot of pure comedy just with the way Sammy came out and took out Drew in the back there.
We better get to break. We've got a few more things to talk about on Raw, including the main event, the World Tag Team Championship, and then we'll jump to SmackDown as well. They put on a Women's Tag Team Championship match, and that also had KO's promo on the latest from him. So let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more on Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket.
Who wants free diamonds? This holiday season, as a thank you for shopping with us, Sartor Heyman Jewelers is giving you free diamonds. Now through December 6th, receive a pair of sparkling diamond stud earrings, a stunning diamond pendant, or a gorgeous diamond tennis bracelet for free with your qualifying purchase. We only have a limited number to give away, so once they're gone, they're gone. Don't wait on this one. Visit Sartor Heyman Jewelers, where your gift shopping shines brighter. In Lincoln at South Point Mall, downtown, and in Grand Island on State Street.
At Action Plumbing, Heating, AC, and Electrical, we're ready, reliable, and recommended. Water heater acting up or your sump pump on the fritz? Call Action. Summer's around the corner. Is your AC working? Are you sure? Call Action. Electrical problems? I'm telling you, call Action. Call Action for a free same-day estimate or a trusted second opinion. You heard that right, a free same-day estimate. 402-423-6960. ActionLincoln.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Coppell Chevrolet GMC, wanting to thank you all again for your continued service. November is off and running. Check this out. Get up to $12,000 off or 0% financing on select new vehicles. We have great lease specials with new Trax and Trailblazers starting at $299 per month and new Blazer EVs leasing for $399. Great payments, discounts, and of course, 0% financing. So make that short drive down 144th Street or check us out online at CoppellCars.com. You'll be glad you did. All finance with approved credit, leases with $2,500 down.
This holiday season, recharge with the Planet Fitness Black Card for just $1 down and $24.99 a month. So instead of fighting a stranger in the mall over a stuffed T-Rex, bring a friend for free and work out on the TRX. Instead of freezing in line for a lame holiday deal, relax in the Black Card Spa with some hydro massage feels. Instead of being trapped at your in-laws, escape to any of our 2,600 Planet Fitness locations. Sign up today for the Planet Fitness Black Card. Just $1 down and $24.99 a month. Deal ends Friday, December 6th. See Club for details.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Infrastructure, a veteran-owned local company proudly serving Lincoln, Lancaster County, and the surrounding areas. Bauer provides quality work at an affordable price, and they're growing rapidly. If you want to experience a career with a fast-paced, family-friendly environment, visit BauerInfrastructure.com. They have top-of-the-line benefits, year-round work, even through the winter. Bauer, usher in the new era of infrastructure to an area near you. And as always, go Big Red.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels and Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels and Joe.
93.7 The Ticket is proud to provide listeners with daily opportunities to win contests and prizes on our airwaves, and would like to take this opportunity to remind you of a couple rules. All participants must be 21 or older and must wait 30 days after winning a prize before participating in another contest. Once you win, you have 30 days to pick up your prize at the K&TK Studios, 1040 O Street in Lincoln, or your prize will be forfeited. Thank you for participating in our contest, and thank you for listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
Early break.
There's quite a situation going on.
What?
Jake's been asked to step away on Fridays from now on.
Yeah,
They want to bring. Young Ben has been dubbed as the curse breaker. He's been dubbed as the curse breaker, and Jake's been asked kindly to step away.
Just for Fridays.
Just
though.
Fridays.
Just Fridays
Step away.
only. Game day only. Game day eve only.
Early break from 6 to 8 every weekday morning on 93.7 The Ticket.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bakoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hoping you are having a wonderful night here on 93.7 The Ticket. This is Nuclear Heat, our WWE Week in Review show. We're just wrapping up this week's episode of Raw. So let's jump in right where we left off, which is a weekly deal where The Miz tries to get out of the Karrion Kross deal with the Wyatt Six, and Karrion Kross in the Final Testament won't let him. So instead of getting out of it, Kross revealed that The Miz will actually take on Dexter Lumis of the Wyatt Six this next week on Raw. Very interesting. We talked about it last week that Wyatt Six was pinned by the Final Testament. So the Final Testament seemingly have the upper hand at this point. There obviously a little bit of history between The Miz and Dexter Lumis before Dexter Lumis was part of the Wyatt Six. Does this do anything? Does this bring you intrigued to see Lumis against The Miz for the next chapter of this battle between the Final Testament and Wyatt Six?
Not really. A little, maybe yes, because I thought the whole when he was stalking, that was pretty funny. He did that for a couple months.
He did, yeah.
He'd show up at his house, all that stuff. They're really playing that, but I'm not really interested in the Wyatt Six all that much, and of course we've talked about the Final Testament, we just don't really care. The only real factor in all this, I think, is The Miz. But this has a chance if they put on a good match, can kind of reignite. And I honestly think Dexter Lumis was fine. The short time that we got to see him before he went away and came back as this, and we know The Miz can deliver. So I'll give it a chance in there. But no, I'm not really all that interested in either one of these factions.
Yeah, I don't think this necessarily is going to draw you to the television by seeing it. I'm interested. I think it's good. Not to have the Wyatt Six on every week.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of it, but they also shouldn't be taking pinfalls, especially to a group that just doesn't win enough. I want to reiterate, I like a lot of the talent of the Final Testament. It's just the way that they've been booked and presented over the years has not been good. And so them to beat the Wyatt Six, who this is only their second feud, and they're supposed to feel magical or threatening. And I think the biggest problem with them in doing so is that they just they wanted to all along just say, okay, yes, we're crazy, we wear masks, but you know who these people are. This is, this is Dexter Lumis, and this is, each and every member, and they're all mid-carders or folks that were hard to be seen, at that next level. And that's where it's already hard. It's like, I see Uncle Howdy as Bo Dallas, and they present Uncle Howdy as Bo Dallas. So how am I supposed to believe Bo Dallas is going to move up the card? Yeah,
and you can hear Bo Dallas, it's
right.
like they need to distort his voice or something, because you can still hear that believe, and I can't get past that. And this is something we've talked about. Like, I feel like everybody but Nikki Cross has been released, that's on the Wyatt Six and then was brought back. And they just haven't done a great job with it. And they should have done it to where they were just supernatural beings. They weren't the human side of it. I think that's what kind of ruined, this whole thing, because, and then like you said, they've been getting pinned, and they've been losing. It just, I was so excited because, I'm a huge horror fan, huge WWE fan. I thought this would be perfect. It's just not really working out all that much.
Yeah, I have to believe that in a couple years when we look back at this, we're going to say that this was mismanaged.
Mhm.
And to include Eric Rowan. I mean, Eric Rowan, there's just so much that they could have done, and there was a little bit of like excitement to see him back, but now he's just kind of lost in this group. Again, maybe it is for some people and we're just not catching on. But again, part of it too is like, if they're supposed, they're kind of, you feel like they're supposed to be supernatural group, but they're not necessarily supernatural.
No.
They had that debut where they seemingly knocked out everybody. We're trying to think, is that Triple H? Is that the world champion? Is that Cody? And then all of a sudden, very quickly they're just humanized. And that was the problem too with Bray Wyatt's character. When we thought that the Fiend was a monster that couldn't be stopped, then that character was on fire. As soon as they had to stop Hell in a Cell because they were worried about the monster's health, that really took a lot away from it.
Yeah, it just it's like they, and the funny thing is, like, they had people, the Undertaker, Kane. We'll say Kane was kind of messed up at the end. That was just that kind of
how
went
he
down
debuted
him.
was fantastic. They creatively, I mean, he was there a long time.
Yeah,
so.
and when he was Kane, it was great. But when he was corporate Kane, I don't think that really worked out. But they've done it before with other people. I just don't get why they're struggling the last couple years. Even the Boogeyman. The Boogeyman's still around. He's still doing promos and things for the WWE, and he's a supernatural, person. And I just don't get how they're missing with it. They have all the opportunities. I mean, WWE has produced horror movies, with their WWE studios. They should know what to do, and instead they're just missing the last couple times with these types of characters. And like you said, a lot of WWE fans are probably horror fans, so this would be a great way to always bring them together, and it just hasn't worked out.
Yeah. I still feel like Nikki Cross's character might have the most potential out of all of them. I don't know if she can really wrestle in that gear, but anytime she pops up in the background, she looks the horror part of it. She looks good there.
Yeah, she does. I just can't get the AHS. Is that what they were calling her? The superhero?
Yeah.
Oh, that was that. They all
almost a superhero. That's
all of them have had very low points. Eric Rowan had the spider thing, which was the dumbest thing. Dexter Lumis got released. Bo Dallas was Bo Leave. That's tough. And then Nikki, of course, had the superhero. So that's what you're saying. They've all had really lows, and they're supposed to be part of this big group.
Again, that's when you bring it back to the like this is who they are. Now they just have masks on.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, these aren't top of the card type of people. And this game, and then you then you just have them get pinned already a few times as a group, and not just somebody in the group. Uncle Howdy taking pins.
Yeah.
They just don't feel nearly as threatening as they should. In any event, let's get to the main event of Raw, the World Tag Team Championship between the War Raiders and Finn Balor and JD McDonough. As you could predict, as many did predict, ultimately Damian Priest got involved here. Finn Balor is trying to grab a chair to go and take out the War Raiders, but ultimately Priest was able to stop him from using the weapon. The War Machine was delivered as they used that on the distraction, and Finn Balor got pinned for the victory. Now the War Raiders are your World Tag Team Champions. I know a lot of people saw it coming. I know this was the writing on the wall. And that Finn Balor and JD McDonough haven't really defended their titles, but I just don't know. I mean, the War Raiders have been repackaged. They took the Viking out of them, and then they threw them back on here. And I just don't know if they've got a whole lot of momentum going other than that they're repackaged to be World Tag Team Champions.
Yeah. As soon as they won, I thought of you. And I just remember what you said, because I said I predict the War Raiders, and you're like, really? The War Raiders? You're like, no. It's just like you said, the writing on the wall. They had to take the titles off of the Judgment Day because they've done nothing with it. And, they're going to focus on this Finn Balor and Damian Priest side of it. And, you got to give it to a team that's going to actually do something with it. And that's the War Raiders. As you said, they've been repackaged. Well, their whole thing can be around them being tag team champions, whereas the New Day or the Judgment Day, it's not, so this was the right move. And I always think it's hilarious, especially when Finn was trying to grab that chair. He didn't look back. He just kept trying to pull, and you're like, You're like, come on, you're like, that's that's pretty funny and all that. But I mean, yeah, this was very, very predictable. And now we're gonna see where this goes from here on.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, I don't know what they have lined up for the War Raiders. This could be a quick championship moment, and sometimes it's nice to pay off veterans that have been in the company for a long time. They for what it's worth, they look threatening. I've always said the War Raiders, I think, are great for live, because they could just deliver some heavy set packages. Ivar's really nimble for how big he is, and Eric is a pretty hard kicker. When he delivers those knees, the strikes look pretty good. They just still, like, they took the Viking out of the War Raiders, but they still have that problem that they're kind of still just, the War Raiders. I just don't know if I see much more of a ceiling than what they have. And on this move to Netflix, this is what you want representing the tag team division.
Well, as you said, it could be fast. I mean, you've got Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston having their heel, kind of that. What better way to make everyone hate them even more than to take out the War Raiders, in a way, kind of cheat their way to it, take the titles. Then you're talking about, you've got the guys with the most nuclear heat outside of Dom holding the tag team championships. You've kind of got, some relevant titles again. I honestly think that's what they need to do there, because as you said, War Raiders, as good of workers as they are, they're just some guys, some teams, some, wrestlers that just don't get over. Unfortunately, I feel like that's kind of them.
Yeah, their act is fine for what it is. It's just not top of the card stuff. And so when you have the championship, it just leaves a lot to be desired. So I'm sure they will just be, just have it for a while. But that'd be a great way to get the New Day too at the front of our minds. I think them with the championship would be great. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about WWE SmackDown this week as we wrap up Nuclear Heat on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Raising little ones is a big job, and you do your best to give them a good start every day. That means making sure they're well cared for while you're apart. You work hard, but it's not always easy to make ends meet. There may be help. Find out if you qualify for Nebraska's Child Care Tax Credit for working parents. You could be eligible for a credit of up to $2,000 per child on your next tax return. Learn more at nebraskachildcaretaxcredit.org. Brought to you by First 5 Nebraska and Nebraska Children and Families Foundation, and aired by the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
You can help fight deadly diseases like RSV and influenza while getting paid for your time. Velocity Clinical Research is now seeking clinical trial participants in your area. Participants can receive compensation for study-related time. No health insurance is needed to join. Find a study near you at velocitytrials.com. That's velocitytrials.com.
Ryan, with all this red and all these people around, I'm still not seeing the tailgate.
Todd Spidell, former body shop owner, terrible driver.
We're getting close. Now, did you know with 3 locations in Lincoln and hundreds of years of combined technician experience, we can get Husker fans back on the road even quicker and safer after their tailgate mishaps? Oh, Todd, turn left right here.
Left or right?
Left, right here.
Right?
Well, you wait for the tow truck. I'm getting a hot dog.
Well, I guess while I'm waiting. All right! Most recommended! Eustace Body Shop!
Woohoo! Dude, you should be on American Idol.
You really think so?
No.
Accidents happen, even to Husker fans. If it happens to you, call Eustace Body Shop, where our customers send their friends.
The most recommended Eustace Body Shop. That's who we are.
At Anderson Ford, we offer a 5-day return or exchange policy, so you can make sure the vehicle you choose is the best vehicle for you. No pressure. Right now, lease a 2024 Ford F-150 for $395 per month. Experience better at Anderson Ford.
Stock number 1003769, $395 per month lease with 36 months with proof credit, 7,500 miles per year, $5,250 to its signing, no security deposit required. Tax, title, and license fees extra. Residency restrictions apply. Program subject to change. Must take new retail delivery from Anderson Auto Group by 11/30/24. See delivery details.
Ever wish you had another light switch on the other side of the room on a dark night? How much better would you sleep at night if you had a ceiling fan in your room? The High Electric Service Department is here to make your electrical what-ifs a reality. Whether you're looking to replace some outdated light fixtures or brighten up your counters with under-cabinet lighting, High Electric can handle all types of residential electrical installations and services. Give Erica a call at 402-466-6606 or visit high-electric.com to get started.
General Fire and Safety has been keeping Lincoln businesses and commercial structures safe for more than 50 years. From a simple fire extinguisher to full fire suppression systems, Lincoln has trusted General Fire and Safety to provide top-of-the-line products, installation, and maintenance. If you're starting a new business in a brand new building, call on General Fire and Safety to help you plan a fire safety system that fits the specific needs of your business, employees, and customers. Call General Fire and Safety today at 402-261-0116.
Rashawn Jackson here for Bauer Infrastructure, a veteran-owned local company proudly serving Lincoln, Lancaster County, and the surrounding areas. Bauer provides quality work at an affordable price, and they're growing rapidly. If you want to experience a career with a fast-paced, family-friendly environment, visit BauerInfrastructure.com. They have top-of-the-line benefits, year-round work, even through the winter. Bauer, usher in the new era of infrastructure to an area near you. And as always, go Big Red!
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bakoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back on Nuclear Heat, ready to talk about WWE SmackDown from this previous week, which includes a Santa-suited Braun Strowman. So how can you get any better than that as we get towards the holidays? Poor Braun Strowman. We'll talk about that when we get there. We opened up with the Scottish Warrior Drew McIntyre interrupting Solo Sikoa's show opening promo. He was out there with Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu, but Drew McIntyre went out there not so nice to Solo Sikoa. Of course, going back on their history, calling their history that Solo was part of the group that took him out along with Roman Reigns that kind of started his downward spiral, if you will. But he's willing to kind of pause that frustration because they have a mutual enemy right now in Roman Reigns and the Usos. And Jimmy Uso, hobble Jimmy Uso, did show up and attack McIntyre. LA Knight, Apollo Crews, and Andrade all rushed the ring to take on the Bloodline, which conveniently set up their matchup.
Yeah, and that Apollo Crews is still around. I did not notice that, and then it made sense why they kind of put him in here. You got to protect everyone else besides Apollo Crews. But I thought it was fine. Drew McIntyre being on SmackDown, that's kind of nice to see. Kind of the transfer portal, I guess, is what they're sticking with here.
Which they were big on that like 2 weeks ago, and then they mentioned it like twice here. I feel like that's something they probably won't mention.
No, it's. I feel like just the brand split is done. They're just everybody storylines are just going to start going back and forth. And I guess it's WrestleMania season. You have the ability to do it now if you're going to. But then as we kind of discuss over and over again, then that just stopped the draft. Then, the draft is just irrelevant. Every single year you do it, especially when your number one overall pick is Carmelo Hayes. And who knows what he's doing, with Braun Strowman now. Looks like they might go 7 rounds after he just got done with Andrade. But, I thought that was fine. And, it was very interesting to hear Drew kind of talk to Solo, and I'm still like, I still can't wrap my head around where's all this going? So many people are trying to go after Roman. Drew's going after him. Then you got CM Punk wanting to kind of main event something at WrestleMania. And then, the Bloodline, wants to obviously with Roman Reigns, and then The Rock. There's just so many possibilities they have to go down this road. And now Drew, coming out, it's like what's endgame here? You've got 4 months to kind of put it all together. And I just think it's funny how now everybody's coming back at Roman, and kind of being upset and things like that. But I think it's fine because Drew McIntyre, he's great on the mic, great in the ring. Can always do fun stuff. And I thought it was funny that Jimmy Uso with his broken toe comes out and starts attacking him there. So I thought that was a perfect way to kind of start the SmackDown episode.
Yeah, it was interesting. And I know you like LA Knight, so I kind of want to get your thoughts on the match here. You mentioned that Apollo Crews was thrown into this match basically to take the pin. But ultimately this match was a pretty good match until Shinsuke Nakamura shows up out of nowhere and attacks LA Knight with the Kinshasa. Didn't quite land all of it. I noticed that, but in any case, that took out LA Knight to allow Apollo Crews to take the pin ultimately from Solo, who delivered the Samoan spike. Do you like the fact you're going back to Shinsuke and LA Knight? It was Shinsuke they just kind of took him off TV for a minute. He's kind of been ducking the bloodline, and he's got the belt. So it was interesting. A little bit of it's the same match that they've had before, but a couple of weeks off, try to distract the fact LA Knight's kind of moving on to something else. You like the fact that it's coming back to Shinsuke in LA?
I mean, it has to. They've only really done it once since the titles changed. As we talked about it, we don't want these titles to hot potato, to just go from hand to hand. So it makes me nervous, that, well, one, LA Knight's apparently now in this kind of feud with the Bloodline, because the Bloodline's going after this very random group of Andrade, Apollo Crews, and LA Knight on there. And then you got Shinsuke kind of with in the middle of that. It's just kind of messy with that. So it is a little intriguing because you don't know who could win this feud. I, of course, would love to see LA Knight do it, but with everybody that's included, you never know with that. But I mean, with the way they're going with feuds right now, there's at least 7 matches between guys, when they're in these. So they're only going into match 2. So I assume it's going to be a little bit of a while before they move on to different feuds there.
Yeah, and we'll see. Again, they needed to do a good enough job with Shinsuke coming back to protect his character, and I think they've done that enough that he's won the championship, even taking him just off TV for a week or two. It's like, okay, now he's a little bit more established. If he does lose it to LA Knight, it doesn't feel like he's the same Shinsuke that's been losing for years.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I've always said Shinsuke is great in the ring, right? He's got a great style. He's weird. We'll say that, his personality. So nothing against that, just the way he's been booked, kind of like with a bunch of these guys. He came up on the top. Did he win the Royal Rumble? I think he did. Yeah, he won it, I think, his first year. Didn't win the championship and kind of just, went mid-card and then went worse. Still has one of the greatest, the violin entrance and all that, I think, is great. But just the booking, he's a guy that took pin time after time, won a couple of championships, but just hasn't done anything. And it kind of feels like that's where they're going with my boy LA Knight. He was at the top. Everybody was behind him for about 2 years, and they had like 4 chances to really get him over during that time. They didn't. Finally did with the U.S. Championship match, and it just hasn't been great. And then he drops it to Shinsuke Nakamura. And then the worst part is, we've talked about maybe Logan Paul coming back. Logan Paul said he might be retired from the WWE, so you never know. That might not be in the cards for it anymore. So I'm just getting a little worried about my boy LA Knight there too.
Well, what Logan's got a celebrity boxing matchup coming up too. I saw.
I think Conor. Is it Conor McGregor?
Yeah. So yeah,
he's a boxer now too, doesn't he? I mean, how is he going to box when apparently he's got that metal, that bionic arm or whatever he was going off of all that time? I think that's pretty illegal in the boxing world, right?
I'm not sure, but I don't know. It's celebrity boxing. Maybe you can get away with it. I'm not really sure.
Maybe they got some weird rules over there.
Then we had a KO backstage segment. Of course, now we're starting to see memes pop up all over Twitter of Cody Rhodes upside down and going down slides and such. So they're keeping that out with keep Cody off TV. By the way, Cody off TV this week. Gunther off TV this week. Roman off TV this week. Again, so I thought they've done a good job to without the star power, put on some entertaining deals here. KO basically saying he hasn't snapped yet, and what happens next is on all of us. So it's gonna be your fault.
It's my fault that Kevin Owens is about to do this, and I had forgotten it was taped until this happened, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's because they didn't want to spoil in the live taping what happened. Same with Chelsea Green. Nowhere to be found after you win, the first ever championship. They had an after a video segment.
Yeah.
It's like this is how they kept the secret. So kind of a double-edged sword when you're doing the taping for the next week there. But I thought this was fine. I mean, Kevin Owens is kind of just doing Kevin Owens things, and I'll take the blame if one of them ends up with a broken neck, I guess.
That's right. It's on all of us. Then we had a Santa-suited Braun Strowman, like I said, going to the ring to join the Grayson Waller effect. I think this is when Braun Strowman realized he really has made it in WWE.
Oh, my God.
Man, I feel bad for the guy because he should be in a main event title scene more often than he is. And often he's just kind of thrown into the mid-card. And here he is. Carmelo Hayes approaches the ring. Grayson Waller goes at Braun Strowman for a while. This is until Carmelo Hayes approaches the ring, challenges him to another match, and they have a match. The Monster Among Men threw his opponent out of the ring, then it throws him into the ring, but enough time to allow the referee Jessica Carr to count 10. So Strowman loses by count out. Hayes wins. And then Strowman's really mad about it. So later on in the show, he's backstage looking for the number 1 draft pick. And the former NXT champion attacks him, hits him with a steel chair, and then gets away. So I thought they did a pretty good job with this. At least it's not completely fresh, as Carmelo Hayes and Braun Strowman had already had a fight, but it's at least something where I want to see what's kind of coming up next. But again, it does remind you that they could always book Braun Strowman better.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I don't know what happened to Grayson Waller, but I thought this was probably his worst show. That was just horrible mic work there. But yeah, Braun Strowman, I mean, you always get excited when he comes back. He's the monster. He won a tag team championship with a 12-year-old boy
Right.
at one point, things like that. But they keep trying to put him as this like funny comedic act, Santa Claus, and things like that. And it just, he's like 6'9", 300 pounds. The guy in real life is probably destroying everybody there. And I mean, this could be good for Carmelo Hayes, to kind of get into a feud with somebody that as legitimate as that. I mean, Braun Strowman is a former world heavyweight champion, or WWE champion, I think at the time. So, I mean, they could be trying to cook something, trying to make it pay off here. But yeah, this just seems like another one of those. It's a funny comedic, feud for him, and hopefully they don't go 7 rounds like Carmelo Hayes' last feud went, because I can't take any more of those. Those were just too much.
Yeah, we'll see if they do. I'm interested who's going to win that feud again, because they should be taking care of Braun Strowman. But if they see something in Carmelo Hayes, at least to book him as the number 1 pick at some point, got to see something in him too.
Yeah.
So we'll see what they go there. Real quickly, the final 2 matches as we wrap up the show: Alex Shelley against Johnny Gargano. The story here was each one of these guys wanted to do it themselves. Of course, the heels said that, but didn't necessarily mean it. Tommaso Ciampa shows out to distract. Chris Sabin does come out to try to even the odds, but it's too late. Johnny Gargano uses this as a distraction and rolls up Shelley for the win. I thought wasn't the best hard-hitting matchup. They kind of had to rush this a little bit, but fine for the next chapter and what they're doing between those two groups.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's not nothing amazing, but at the same time, there's some personal beef behind it because they've been friends for over 20 years, things like that. It seems like everybody in the company has been friends, for over 20 years before they get to WWE. But, the machine, I can't even say their name.
Motor City
Machine Gun. Wow, that's another mouthful. I think they're fun. They're really good in the ring, and Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, you know what they can give. They're good. They're great in the ring. There's just not that want always to see what they're in, but I mean, I think this is just fine for them.
Yeah, and they're much better as heels. So I'm excited to see kind of what moved forward in that matchup. It just felt like they did a lot of that like long-term friendship. Like they promoted this matchup pretty well for the action that we got out of it. But nonetheless, that's where it was. And then the main event, women's tag team championship match between Nia Jax, Candice LeRae, and Bianca Belair and Naomi Jax. Naomi was kind of telling the story that she wants to earn this win before she claims to be the tag team champion here. Of course, Bianca Belair's partner, Jade Cargill, had been taken out by, we don't know. So we'll still have to wait and see on that. As you would guess in this match, ultimately Miss Money in the Bank Tiffany Stratton shows up, and as you would also guess, she did not cash in, despite the fact that the crowd was cheering for it. At some point, Nia Jax suffered a laceration onto her forehead, so we did get some blood in this match. But ultimately, Stratton was there. It seemed like maybe she was part of the distraction on the reverse side, kind of got Nia Jax distracted, and then Candice LeRae gets defeated for the victory. And so Bianca Belair and Naomi Jax continue as the tag team champions.
Yeah, this was pretty predictable. You can't have Nia be the double champ when she's already not as interesting as the WWE Women's Champ. So yeah, you can see that. But I thought it was a fine match, and one of these times Tiffany's going to cash in. One of these days she's going to, and it's going to be successful, and we're going to say it was worth it.
Yes. And I mean, we always know that she's not going to cash in because of how often they've teased it, but it definitely wasn't going to happen on pre-taped shows. So,
yeah,
we definitely knew that wasn't going to happen there.
That would have been miserable.
All right, that'll wrap it up for this week's action on Nuclear Heat. We'll be back next week to talk more WWE Week in Review. Hopefully it'll be a very entertaining week as we, again, lead up to Raw on Netflix. That'll wrap it up for ticket programming tonight as well. We'll see you bright and early in the morning for Early Break.